Thank you. So just if you could state your name for the record and then proceed. Thank you.
Good morning, Darrell Oliveira, Administrator, Hawaii County Civil Defense, and with me is May Hirayama, Secretary for our office. And we didn't really come with a formal presentation this morning, more to respond to any questions or concerns the council may have. I think if anything, it's just to, again, emphasize the roles and missions of our department with one, understanding and identifying the different hazards that we're vulnerable to here, being able to communicate to the community when those hazards pose a risk or threat to our community, and then also participating in the outreach and education of the community with disaster preparedness and awareness. So those are our primary functions, and like I said, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions regarding our operations or our budget at this time.
Thank you. Any council members? Councilmember Willie?
Hi. Well, just a general thank you for all you do. You're wonderful, and to all of your staff and department. Just a couple specific questions. One is in terms of, I've been working to get a CERT location in Waimea, and actually, looking towards maybe contingency funding or something. But I was also, and I don't know, I know other departments relate to CERT and the police relate to it and that. But just in terms of, do you agree that it would be good to have some central point for CERT and someplace in Waimea? Is that, am I reading this right? I sort of see Waimea as a key place, just in the event there was a hazard in another place, and the more organized we can be, where we've got gravity-fed water, we've got at least theoretically more food, and just sort of looking at this in terms of the long-term preparedness issue. So I look at when they talked about maybe if there's a tsunami of 6 feet, at a certain point, both of the two major airports go under, at least Waimea. So I'm just trying to take little steps and sort of big picture steps. What about when PAHOA does its ad hoc committee and they tell everybody their connectivity routes? At what point they say, go to Waimea, or what are the worst case scenarios that we don't hope never happen, but if they do happen. So and trying to look at us as an island. We are an island in how we prepare for each other, or sister cities, PAHOA to Waimea or whatever. So just sort of the role of CERT, or there are other and maybe you could just explain. So we talked to the police in terms of CERT, sort of what the hierarchy or the network is in terms of connecting to CERT.
Sure. Well, first, I know some of the council members, like Ms. Ford, have been intimately involved in CERT for a long time. She's actually one of the original CERT-trained members in the community. And I apologize if we at Civil Defense maybe haven't done a real, progressive job in educating the council about CERT. CERT is one of many programs under the Citizens Corps umbrella, which is a Homeland Security FEMA-sponsored initiative. Here in Hawaii County, we have the CERT program, Neighborhood Watch, the Medical Reserve Corps, and VOAD. These are the four big or maybe active programs under the Citizens Corps umbrella that exist in our county. So I'll focus on CERT as it relates to your questions. CERT is the Community Emergency Response Team. It's a program that provides training and some resources to community members that volunteer their time to receive the training and then go back to their community and organize themselves to be prepared and able to respond to disasters should something happen on a catastrophic level and they be cut off. That was the initial or original concepts of CERT, was that communities can easily become cut off and isolated, and first responders may be delayed in getting there. So it was an effort to train and provide some resources to community members to take care of their community, take care of one another when something like that happens. We're very fortunate on this island through, a very active program, a very proactive program that's been in place for some time now. We have over 320 trained CERT members island-wide, just about every community, and 23 active CERT teams. And we're not stopping there. We want to continue to provide more training and continue to build that capacity because we have a very large island with limited resources. As far as the activation of CERT, there are two basic fundamental ways the CERT teams are activated. One is if we have a catastrophic event and there's no communication, they can self-activate to respond to their community's needs immediately. The other is if there is a large event, maybe not so catastrophic, but they can provide a resource to other agencies. We at Civil Defense would activate those teams that would be needed as a close and appropriate resource to support and supplement the first responders. Examples of that were, I used the flood in Pawilo. We used the CERT members in the Pawilo-Mauka area to go door to door and identify any community members along with the community association that might need assistance either with medical care, evacuation, or any other type of assistance. They were also instrumental in collecting the contact information so we'd have a telephone directory if needed to contact anybody in the community. In the past, I know specifically with Ms. Ford, when we had the flooding in Kona and we opened up a shelter, the Red Cross, another organization that is dependent upon volunteers, could not assemble enough personnel to maybe open the shelter initially, and we made a request at that time if the CERT, which was a resource we could easily get our hands on, if they could assist with opening the shelter, even though that's not their function and role, but to close that gap until the Red Cross gets there. So there's been many opportunities that we've utilized the CERT members for support. They've been active in participating in drills and exercises, everything from the airport's triennial certification exercises. We just had annual civil support team training exercise with the National Guard. We've engaged the CERT teams on the Makani Pahili annual hurricane exercises. So we're doing, I think, a lot more to engage them and involve them in these preparedness exercises, and they are a tremendous asset and resource to ourselves at Civil Defense, the different first responder agencies, and for the community. As far as your specific question with regards to Waimea, again, our role is to support any community that wants to have a CERT team and work closely with that community. If there's an association within the community or a partner agency we can work with that could provide them with a meeting place, a place to maybe store and house equipment. Again, those are partnerships that we'd like to facilitate for the CERT teams. Again, an example of that is the Waikoloa community. They use a office space that has been basically given to them from the Waikoloa Community Association at the clubhouse. So they have an office, they have a room where they store their equipment, and other CERT teams across the island may have access to that. And again, they may be fortunate, others may not be so fortunate to have a community association clubhouse or meeting place. But again, we definitely work with the Waimea community to basically build a strong presence of CERT in Waimea.
Okay, yeah, thank you, and that's what we're trying to do. And I think other questions I can talk to you separately for, but I do think working with the folks in Waikoloa and Waimea, I think we're trying to look at how a sort of a plan that if we had to be like a host community for something that was in another part of an island, and just making you aware that we're trying to look at it, not just working with our own residents, whether it's a stay in place and have enough food on hand kind of plan, but just so that where there are experience where there were tsunamis, all of our parking lots got filled up, and then they're coming to the council office, or where do we go, or where's the point, or who do we talk to, or from the hotels and that. So, okay, thank you very much again. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I'm sure Councilmember Ford, she just wants to make a response.
I just want to
and then
make
I'm gonna
some responses. As a CERT member who's been here for a long time, thank you to you, Daryl, getting us trained. One of the things that we do, we don't have a meeting place we call it the South Kona CERT, but it actually covers up to the fire station at Pu'uloa. But we don't have a meeting place. And a lot of times the CERT teams try to have their equipment and stuff near a fire station, because since those are staffed, all the time, 24/7, the equipment tends to be safer. What we did, though, is we bought a trailer. We got grants. We actually incorporated, and we got grants for emergency supplies, and we also got a trailer, and that trailer is loaded with stuff that we can pull behind a standard size pickup. a little Ford Ranger like I got. Can't pull it because of the hills. But you can store things like that. You might work with the fire department and see if they've got any space at their lot where it could be, that stuff can be taken care of. And contingency funds are always welcomed by CERT teams, and we've got books of stuff that we can order for supplies. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Elegant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Administrator Oliveira. As you know, it is Tsunami Awareness Month, and you have been very active in letting the community know about that. We, as a council, just attended the first event that you held, and it went very well. I really liked that it was timed at 11:45, and we got to hear the sirens go off in remembrance of the people that were affected by the tsunami. I know that civil defense, the main thing that we need to establish is to have a plan. I mean, a plan for a tsunami, a plan for an earthquake, for any natural disaster. And this might come as a shock to you, but I'm very disappointed because we don't have a zombie preparedness plan. And the CDC, on the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, I'm going to read this out. Wonder why zombies? Zombies, apocalypse, and zombie preparedness continue to live or walk dead on a CDC website? As it turns out, what first began as a tongue-in-cheek campaign to engage new audiences with preparedness message has proven to be a very effective platform. We continue to reach and engage a wide variety of audiences on all hazards preparedness via zombie preparedness. And as our own director, Dr. Ali Khan, notes, if you generally are well equipped to deal with a zombie apocalypse, you will be prepared for a hurricane, pandemic, earthquake, or terrorist attack. So please log in, get a kit, make a plan, and be prepared. I want to get your thoughts on a zombie preparedness plan.
Well, what I take from that is, we have to find the mechanism, the vehicle to get the best outreach and attention. And what we've, again, just reflecting back on my previous career, the audience that we found to be very effective in educating our community is the children. If we look at the Fire Prevention Week campaign, it has been very successful because every child that I know of goes home and basically beats it into their parents to have a fire prevention plan. Same can be true for a disaster preparedness plan. So we've been trying to do a better job of outreaching to the youth in the community because they are excellent teachers. And we have some, examples of and success stories with that. We are aware that with the Samoa tsunami, in many cases, it was the children directing elders where to go because of the education they had with that tsunami. So again, the message I take from the zombie disaster plan is we need to explore and find target audiences that would be very effective in getting the communication and information out there, as well as to explore the different technology that we can use, such as social media and other things that would make it, I want to say, attractive to participate in disaster preparedness. So again, we're looking at ways, and I appreciate the input, and again, any ideas on how we can do a better job with public outreach, we welcome your suggestions and thoughts.
It's all about preparedness, and even though it seems like a joke, it does work, and I know you're doing an outstanding job. I actually will be promoting the zombie preparedness plan, and I feel like it's a way to reach into the young people that don't really know where they can be prepared and find that help to be prepared. And I think that will attract. And I heard it from Bill Hansen from your Civil Defense Department, and I'm not very disappointed. I'm grateful for all the work that you've done, and you have done an outstanding job. And I just wanted to let you know that I will be doing my best to try to promote that and see if we could get our residents in Puna to be more prepared. And they are very active, actually. I just want to continue encouraging them to work on their plans.
If I could just add a little bit to you, I appreciate the praise and the recognition, but it's really about teamwork. And I think something that's understated too often, or it's not promoted enough, is that the effectiveness of our office is really attributed to the teamwork from all the departments and agencies and the community coming together. We're just the host to bring people together to organizations and help facilitate and coordinate that response. But it's really the troops out there on the ground, public works, parks, state highways. I mean, everybody you can think of that's out there doing the job. And a lot of times they go unrecognized. So again, I appreciate the thanks and recognition, but really it's deserving of the other departments and agencies out there that should be recognized, because when we have a crisis, they're putting their families on hold to respond to the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Chief. Yeah, basically to go off of what you were just saying, I love your how humble you are. It is, it's having great leadership that makes things really work. And yes, the other departments are so critical in there, but without that hub and without that preparedness and without that just steady, calm approach and having everything ready to go, it wouldn't turn out the way that it does. So I'm just grateful for you and your team, and grateful to have somebody like you with all your past experience from the fire department too. Is just amazing. I'm really happy to see that you guys are continuing just to do more outreach and be prepared, and your openness to our communities and your support to our communities through CERT, etc. It's just great to see. You're very accessible, and I guess in the past I never thought that civil defense was very accessible. If something happens, yes, there you are, you're making it happen, but it's all that time in between being prepared that really makes the difference. So I love the accessibility, and I think for anybody that's out there watching, you guys are accessible, and you guys are open to give information and also receive information. So it's a great thing. So thank you, and thank your team and everybody involved when things happen. My hope is that you just are able to kick back and continue just to prepare, and hopefully nothing happens. Thank you.
Councilmember Yoff?
Up on that point, I totally agree, and wanted to thank you also for being so responsive to the questions coming from my office and helping us with all of our contingency needs or questions. Also, as Mr. Kern said, being visible in the community, aside from just during a disaster event, is very comforting, and I'm glad that you're there. So mahalo. And whatever your needs in the budget are, I'm sure they're modest, and I'm very happy to support the department.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford?
Thank you. Well, your department, your staff, have been wonderful. All these years you've operated with 7 people. As long as I have been associated with civil defense, 7 people, and I don't know how you do it. I really don't, because you do take care of a lot of community issues that are going on. So thank you for all of that. I am going to mention a few things. These are not problems in your department or anything, but they're issues that I continue to raise and ask you to take to the state EOCs and the state civil defense, and see if you can get them to fix the issues. So in your department, I see your goals. I would like to see a new goal added for next year, even though I won't be here, and that is the interconnectivity of the subdivisions. Whether it's the one we're working on now down in Puna, per their CDP, or any place else on the island, it's going to be something that you are going to be the central focus for that. So I would like to see that as a goal in your list. The other thing, this is a state issue, and we have public service TV stations. And I remember in the earthquake, in the 2006 earthquake, first thing that happened is electricity went off every place. And for 2.5 hours, we had no electricity. So the TVs were off, the radio, unless you had a portable radio, you had to go out to your car. But the stations were down, and the backup generators had never been operational or had stopped operating, and nobody fixed them. So I don't know how we're doing on our backup generators at the radio stations. Maybe a little later you can tell us about that. But the one thing, because I'm so obsessed with public safety, years ago I went out and I got one of those all-weather radios that you could find out everything that was coming in. And I live in Captain Cook, no signal. The only signal on the west side of the island is the Kona Airport, and it doesn't reach down through the hills and the mountains and everything. And we need to have a few more locations. I realize you can't put them out in the ocean, but we need a few more relay stations that provide that information so that those of us who are involved with emergency response actually can get some information. So that's one thing. The other thing, let's see. On the public television channels, in that event, when the electricity did come back up, of course, the news stations were doing their thing, but it was coming out of Honolulu. And so we got lots of information on Honolulu and not too much from us, except what you guys were feeding from the EOC up to Honolulu through state civil defense. And that was great, but I wonder if there's any way that during a disaster that we could take over one of the public broadcasting stations and that we could put, not just on the cell phones and things, but the reports you guys give out every hour and a half or 2 hours saying this is what's going on, if that could be on the television, because a lot of us stay really tuned into that stuff if we're not activated. So I don't know how that would work. I don't know anything about the public broadcasting system other than I use it. But if there was some way that we could display more information to the public, I think it would be helpful. At least we could flip to that station and see if you guys are producing more local information. Those are the things that I would like to see differently, and I know that you can't fix them yourself. They have to go through the state. So I'm just asking you to bring these things to the attention of the state. The last thing I have is we're supposed to get something like 52 to 72 either new or replacement disaster sirens. Where are we on that project?
On the siren question, the state is currently in the startup work process. Actually, the contracts have been issued, the contractor has been directed to order the equipment is being purchased and delivered. We should see some construction activity on some of the project sites by, before summer. That's if you recall, the state has a statewide project to upgrade, replace, and renovate sirens in every one of the counties. As you mentioned, our county has been identified for, if I recall correctly, at least 50 more sirens, if not more. They broke that project down into basically 4 phases. Phase 1 is the installation of new sirens in the inundation areas. Phase 2 is replacement or renovation of sirens in the inundation areas. Phase 3 is the replacement of existing sirens outside the inundation area. And then phase 4 is new sirens outside the inundation area. They have the funding for most of phases 1, 2, and 3, and they're trying to get funding for phase 4. Right now, we've identified our top 10 priorities for Hawaii County so that could get the projects going, so DAGS could actually manage and initiate the work, as well as the next 30 projects. So like I said, we should see some on-the-ground activity by summer, if not sooner. We're trying to stay in close contact as we can with state civil defense and DAGS on these projects. One of the things, the mayor has been really good in supporting us and encouraging that we try to assist the state any way we can, whether it be in the permitting process, the construction process. So we're in close contact with Public Works, Parks, many of the other departments that have a role in trying to fast track the siren project. So like I said, I'm optimistic we'll see some activity on the ground in the next couple of months.
Now, is one of, hopefully it's in the top 10, if not the top 5, because it's a problem area that's been real neglected. So, do you know if it is?
Specifically, a site in Honanao, no. I can tell you.
Beach, the Honanao Beach area.
Yeah.
They've lost theirs years ago.
And I know we're working currently on Ho'okena Beach with the state. In the top 10, the areas that don't currently have sirens, they're going to get sirens. Kings Landing being one of them. There's 2 in the Waikolo Resort area, and I believe there's 1 in the. It's a replacement of a siren in Hohoihoi Beach, possibly, or Kahulu. But I'll
Okay.
go back and I can share with you which ones
All right.
are in the top 30.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you again for all of your help for all of the years when you were the fire chief and since you've been the administrator in civil defense. You guys do a fabulous job, and I always feel safer hearing from you,
Thank you.
over the radio or TV. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, I just want to say thank you so much for all that you do and for your office staff being very pleasant when we need to get some information and very, very helpful. So thank you for that also. And I know your commitment to our community because when our Powillo Bridge or the culvert went down, I swear you were sleeping there because every time I would go up, he was there, in the rain, so you were there for the people, and the hours that you put up there, took you away from your whole, it was the New Year's, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I mean, you were there consistently. I swear you had a sleeping bag. But thank you so much for your commitment to the people of the county of Hawaii. Aloha.
Thank you. I'd just like to, again, offer to the council, anytime the EOC is activated, you're welcome to come by and observe. Obviously, if there's an issue with maybe too many people in there, we'll tell you. But I think it's an opportunity for you to understand and maybe further build your confidence in what we do here on island with all the departments working together. So again, you're welcome to come by.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to our mass transit agency.